He's here.
There is a very, very important book out right now. And the media will first be silent about it and then try to destroy the author and destroy the content of the books. All right, the book is The Obama Nation. Now, let's dig into some of this here, if I might. Obama tells us that he found as a teenager a mentor named Frank. Now, in his autobiography, he never really tells us who Frank was. Who was Frank?
Frank was Frank Marshall Davis, who was a communist poet and journalist from Chicago who retired in Hawaii. And he was a member of the Communist Party of the United States and professedly a communist. And Obama, as a young man, finishing high school, and Obama discusses this thoroughly in his autobiography, was mentored by Frank. And Frank now has been fully identified, and the academics who have looked into it have without question identified Frank in Obama's autobiography as Frank Marshall Davis, the communist poet and journalist from Chicago.
Now, how did he mentor Obama?
Well, Obama says that this was a time of his life when he was confused about his racial identity. He'd been abandoned by his mother, abandoned by his father. He was reading all of these radical African-American writers, Malcolm X, Stokely Carmichael, Black Power, and his grandfather introduced him to Frank Marshall Davis. Evidently, they played cards together, and Obama began to drink, smoke cigarettes, and spend time with
Now, wait a minute. His mother's father or his father's father?
No, his grandfather, the father of his mother. This would have been Stanley Dunham.
So his mother's father introduced him to this communist.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Exactly. His mother's father introduced him to the communists. They were card-playing buddies in Hawaii, and Obama tagged along with his grandfather and began to develop his own relationship with Frank Marshall Davis that was formed listening to the communist poetry, smoking cigarettes, and drinking with Frank Marshall Davis. And as Obama describes the relationship, Obama sought out Frank Marshall Davis and did it on his own, even without his grandfather. So that when there were crises in Obama's life, for instance, one involving his grandmother, the crisis of his grandmother being scared by an African-American panhandler that was evidently a big enough crisis in Obama's life that he mentioned it even in his speech about, we should all seek a new level in racial relations. Obama is still talking about that. When the day that crisis occurred, Obama in the autobiography says he went over to Frank Marshall Davis and, stayed with him that evening, and the two of them commiserated. Frank Marshall Davis advised Obama about not to go to college. He told Obama he was going to be selling out going to college. This was a major influence in Obama's life, and Frank Marshall Davis has been fully identified and was a radical communist of his time.
Now, you say he was mentored and influenced by him for over a period of how long? Do we know?
It must have been 2 or 3 years, because this period, the autobiography of Obama is often almost intentionally vague on exact dates and times, but it's described when Obama was going to this exclusive high school in Hawaii, Punahou, that his grandparents struggled and sacrificed to pay the tuition. And Obama, during that period of time, so at least let's say 3 years, in the high school years, Obama evidently was friendly with Frank Marshall Davis and spending time with him.